Hello everyone, we're going to be looking at MAP Reading Fluency, how to look at reports, how to schedule benchmark assessments, and how to not let MAP Reading Fluency spook you. This was originally presented on October 16th as a MAP chat, but some individuals said they'd like to be able to reference it more often than just that single chat, so I'm going to record it and post it for everybody to use as needed. The agenda for this recording will be what is MAP Reading Fluency if you're brand new to the Catholic schools in the Diocese of Erie. We'll be looking at scoring and what that means. We'll be looking at the benchmark report, how to understand the benchmark report. Many reports refer to ZPD or Zone of Proximal Development, so we'll be looking at that. Student grouping to use with small groups in your classroom or centers. Some teacher resources that are built right into MAP Reading Fluency, how to progress monitor, and the help feature that is included in all NWEA products. So what is MAP Reading Fluency? It goes beyond just fluency for a more complete picture of early literacy. It's aligned to the science of reading and measures and monitors oral reading fluency, literal comprehension, and foundational reading skills from year to year, benchmark to benchmark, and also offers the ability to quickly screen students who are at risk of reading difficulty, or if you're noticing that maybe their scores on the assessment don't jive with what you're seeing in the classroom, you can progress monitor and get even more data than we do with 3 benchmarks a year. I'm going to play a little video on what MAP Reading Fluency is and what it looks like for the student in case you're brand new.
Before, we used a test where we had to pull students individually and the teacher would have to administer the test to them.
We were looking for a universal screener that didn't take a lot of the teacher's time. A teacher can sit down one-on-one with a student, but when you have 30 students in a classroom, that is a big time commitment.
We only have 6 hours a day with these kids, and with 30 students, we need as much time as possible to get in as much instruction as possible.
MAP Reading Fluency is group administered, and so it allows us to go ahead and test to a class of 30 students, about a half hour or so, getting so much information out of it.
The students can get their headphones and then log in to the MAP Reading Fluency test, and then they can just get started right on their own.
And they follow what the worm does in one click, and they're ready to go.
I am ready.
That's great! I can hear you. Now, get ready to read out loud.
Once you've logged them in, it's very easy for them to maneuver through and for them to be able to speak into the microphone and read what it is that they have to read.
All kids start with a pre-test, and then based on that data, that either takes them to an oral reading fluency test or they work on their foundational skill. Although they're all starting out at the same, it kind of reaches kids where they are, and so it gives them a chance to perform successfully on the test.
It's so easy to use for a teacher or a student, and I have extra instructional time because I'm shortening my assessment administration window. That's been the game changer. So I feel like having a tool which had high impact with results right away has been super powerful.
The other thing that I really appreciate as an administrator is how quickly teachers can have that data in their hand and that they're able to act on it almost immediately after the assessment's over.
And then it gives teachers that immediate on-the-spot data results, and then can then start planning what we need.
Everyone was so excited, not only what the data had to offer, but how quickly they could use that data to respond to student needs.
Our students love MAP Reading Fluency. To them, it is just so interactive. They love the worm. They think that the worm is just great.
You're a rock star! Here's something new.
Felt more like a game than a test. It felt like I was playing a game of reading.
They are loving it, and to them, the user interface is fun. It's kid-based. All of the illustrations in there are culturally relevant and diverse, and students can see themselves in that.
Do you like it?
Yes.
MAP Reading Fluency has provided our teachers with immediate access where we can go back, and if we have more questions, play a child's audio recording.
There are many types of bears in the world. Do you like bears?
You get to listen to their actual performance and see where is the gap that might be showing in the data.
And we walk out with information that it used to take us 3 weeks to pull that same information using other methods.
So as you can see, it very much has a game-based feel to keep the kids interacting and engaged. In order to log into MAP Reading Fluency, there are two options. You can log into the MAP Growth. So if you go to nwea.org, right next to the search bar, you will see logins. If you click that drop-down arrow, you can log into MAP Growth, and you will be able to navigate either to the MAP Growth reports or the MAP Reading Fluency reports. Or if you're only looking at MAP Reading Fluency, you can click on where it says MAP Reading Fluency and log in there. So we're going to click MAP Reading Fluency. And then you get a screen to put in your username and password. So once we're in, if we're looking at the scoring, it's going to be standard across the board for all students. You will see boxes with either a B, an A, an M, or an E. B will be below expectation, so 2 levels or more below that expected ZPD or zone of proximal development. An A for approaching expectation, so they're just 1 level below their ZPD. An M for meets expectation, so they're right in that zone of proximal development or what they're ready to learn for the current term. Or a blue E for exceeds expectation, so they're exceeding where they should be in learning at the moment. So those are your high flyers. If you need a refresher on ZPD or zone of proximal development, it's the gap between where the learner has mastered and where they can potentially master with support or assistance. So basically what they're ready to learn at the moment. And so this outer ring you will see is what the learner cannot do. Even with support, they're not ready yet. ZPD or zone of proximal development is what they're ready to learn. And then on the inner circle, that's the things that they already know they have mastered and they can do without any aid from the teacher. When looking at the scoring key at any of the reports, if you go up to the right corner, you will see the different colored boxes. If you click on that, which is what I have here, it will always show you what those different boxes mean. 2 we didn't cover are NS for no score or NE for no expectation. So NS would be no score, they didn't take a portion of the assessment. NE would be in their current grade level, there's no expectation to know or master the content at the current time. So there are 2 main tests in MAP Reading Fluency. There is the oral reading and the foundational skills, with the gatekeeper kind of being the sentence reading fluency in the middle. So being an adaptive test, it's going to start all students with sentence reading fluency, and then if they master what is being given to them, they're going to go up to oral reading and literal comprehension. If they don't have the skills needed in this sentence reading fluency, they're going to go down to phonological awareness and word recognition. If they can't do that, they're going to be bounced down to these basic foundational skills, so listening comprehension and picture vocabulary. If they have 15 or more correct in sentence reading fluency, it's already going to bounce them up. If they get less than 15 or a 75% in 2 minutes, it's going to start bouncing them back down to the foundational skills. Once you get to 4th grade and up, it's automatically going to start you with oral reading fluency and then adapt as needed from there. Where to find the benchmark report. So you always have this dashboard. You have the proctor dashboard, which is where you're going to go if you're going to give a benchmark assessment, so fall, winter, spring, or if you would like to do some type of progress monitoring. Assignments are where you can see what is assigned to the student, whether it's a benchmark assessment or it's something that you assign to progress monitor. Student usernames and passwords will always be under student password. And report is always, you got it, listed under report. So if you click on that drop down arrow, it's going to give you some options. You have a benchmark matrix, screener outcomes, which would be if you do any type of screening or progress monitoring, and then instructional planning. We're going to start with the benchmark report, which is the first report that you will see listed. So for foundational skills, we have the basic beginner, which are listening comprehension and picture vocabulary, so their basic language comprehension. And then we also have phonological awareness, phonics and word recognition, which is decoding. So the goal is not to read faster and faster. The goal is to read more harder and harder text with good comprehension. So we're not necessarily looking for how quickly they can read the text, but can they read increasingly difficult texts and have a comprehension of what they've read and be able to use that. So if speed is the temperature, oral reading fluency is the thermometer. If students are not reading fast enough, they have a fever. So we're not looking to treat the fever, we're looking to treat the underlying condition, which would be their decoding skills. So once we can master their decoding skills, they'll be able to read more quickly, they'll be able to comprehend more quickly what they're reading. So here is what the matrix report will look like. It will give you lists of students. So if I was looking at a real report, which I'll pull up in a second, on the left here, I would see names of students with each of these columns, and it would tell me how they're doing in each of these components. So the first student listed here would be below basic for their listening comprehension. They only got 47% correct. Picture vocabulary, they're approaching that with a 73. They're approaching blending and segmenting. So phonological awareness, here's kind of where they're stuck on and need support, is the blending and segmenting. And then phonics and word recognition, they're approaching, and they're kind of on that CVC word in their decodables. For sentence reading fluency, this student only got a 7 out of 33 correct, so they're approaching as well. Each student deserves a click. So if I had student names here and I clicked on one, it would give me more information, which is what you're seeing here, and I'll get into that in a report that makes a little more sense. So if I were to click on a student name, it would take me to this area. I would be able to select the term, so this is the current term, and then it would allow me to pick their test date. So if I gave them a benchmark assessment, I could pick that. If I gave them a progress monitoring assessment, I would be able to pick that as well and look at the data. So this is for a first grade student. I'm able to print this if I'd like, to put this in a binder or be able to talk about this with another teacher or a parent. So under the benchmark in their decoding, this student is exceeding their grade level. So it gives you a little blurb that the student is working at a phonemic manipulation of level 4. They're meeting grade level with their phonics and word recognition, and they're decoding CVC words at a level 3. For their language comprehension, they're meeting grade level, and they understood 80% of the complex oral sentences that were given to them. And it's meeting grade level. The student is meeting grade level for their picture vocabulary. They matched pictures at 100% for the oral vocabulary words that were given to them. It will always give you the student name, so this is a nice report. If you want to give it to a parent, it's kind of customized for that student, which is why it's grayed out on my screen. And it will always give you a profile and next step. So it says the student has a solid language comprehension and solid awareness of phonemes. And additionally, the student can decode many simple consonant vowel consonant words, so those CVC words. And then it will give you some next steps. If I click on this link, it's going to tell you what you can do to support that student. So that blue link, I clicked on it. It says the student with his profile would benefit from sounding out words with consonant blends when reading or writing. To develop phonics skills, make opportunities for both decoding and encoding whole words, and providing opportunities to build words and to write using phonetic spelling. So this just gives you kind of a look ahead at what things you can focus on that the student still needs support with and how you can kind of extend their skills. And if you click back to report, it will always take you back to the previous screen. If I were to scroll down on this report, it's going to show me any title that the student has read. So here's a picture warm-up book Jade's grandma. It's going to tell me that there's no scoring. What that's going to tell me is that the student couldn't read the warm-up text. And if you click on the review audio, if the student cannot read it, it's going to still record, so you might hear them breathing into the microphone, you might hear them trying to sound words out. If they can fluently read, it's going to give you an audio of what the student read, so you can listen to that student in real time. I mean, it's recorded, but real time as far as you can listen to what they've read, so you can pick up any issues they may be having or things they're getting stuck on that you might need to reinforce. It's going to give me a raw score for their picture vocabulary, their listening comprehension, and their sentence reading fluency. So picture vocab, when on the previous screen we saw that the student got 100% of them correct, so they got 15 out of 15. Listening comprehension, the student got 12 out of the 15 correct. And sentence reading fluency, they got 2 of the 3 correct. We talk about that zone of proximal development, or the ZPD, kind of what they're ready to learn. They may need some support. So it's going to show me here, they're good with rhymes and syllables, they're good with initial sounds. What I can reinforce in the classroom with some practice is that blending and segmenting. So blending phonemes, they got 4 out of 8 correct, so they can still use some practice on that. And this student's current ZPD, or their sweet spot, what they're ready to learn, is the phonemic manipulation. So phoneme addition and deletion, and phoneme substitution. So that would be where I should focus the majority of my classroom activities for this student. You'll see down at the bottom where it says instructional recommendation. Each report will have this, and for each student, and it will give you some items that you can use in the classroom for small group instruction, some practice at home. So if I click on that, it's going to bring up a PDF. And here we have an activity for phonological awareness. So it's going to give you the objective, the materials, it's going to spell out the activity, and it's usually going to give some handouts for the students. So you could laminate these, or you could give them to each student and use in small groups. You could send it home for practice. I really like how it includes these as kind of some go-to activities based on the data. If I continue to scroll down, it's going to go into the phonics and word recognition. The student has the letters and sounds mastered. Letters in words, they got a 12 out of 12. So I can reinforce that with some practice in the classroom. Their ZPD, their sweet spot, is going to be decoding CVC words, which it kind of already gave us that on the other screen, the other part of the report. So they can decode CVC words, they got 7 out of 8 correct. And building words with CVC, they got 10 out of 12. So that's the student's sweet spot. That's where I should be focusing a majority of my time. And then on the far right, I can introduce this with some support. So they can go into decoding one-syllable words, but they're going to need some additional help versus the other 2 categories. Again, we have the instructional recommendations. If I were to click on one of these, it's going to bring up another PDF. And here is an onset and rhyme phonics activity that I can do with students. So it's going to give me rhyme cards, onset cards, some whiteboards. We'll need some whiteboards and some dry erase markers. I want to talk a little about the help feature. So the help feature in any NWA window or report, whether you're in MAP Growth or MAP Reading Fluency, is going to be adaptive. And what that means is if you click help, no matter where you're at, if I go up and I click help, which will always be right under the logged in where it'll have your name. We have a help button, is the second one in. If I'm on my matrix report in MAP Reading Fluency and I click help, it's automatically going to give me help that deals with that report. On the same notion, if I'm in MAP Growth, I'm in the math and I'm looking at student profile report. If I were to click help, it's going to automatically default and give me help for that report. So it's very nice as far as if you're in the middle of looking at some data and you need a refresher on what the report means or what you're looking at, you don't have to search in the help. You click that and it's going to bring it right up. So we were in the benchmark matrix report. If I clicked help, this is the screen I'm going to see. So it's going to give you the name of the report. It's going to give you a description, the intended audience, so teachers and school administrators. And then required role is going to be what role you need to have in the NWEA system to be able to see the report. So if you can't see the benchmark report, you may not be in there as an instructor. So that's where you go to your building administrator or whoever kind of manages your test sessions and say, hey, I can't see such and such a report, and they could go in and make sure that you're in under the correct heading. Or you can email me, dfuller@eriarcd.org, and I can check into that as well. It's going to give you an overview of what you're looking at on the report screen. So it's going to break it down to give you more of a basic. And then always on the right-hand side, it gives you more things that you can click on for that report. One of the things I'd say is important is the interpretive tables. So if you click on interpretive tables, it's going to come up and tell you kind of what they're looking at for the data based on the report. So we have the expectation levels on the left. We have the grade levels going across horizontally. And so for the first one, for pre-K to get exceeds expectation, the student would have to have an accuracy of 50% or greater for sentence reading fluency. NA will mean that there's no expected outcome at the moment. And then we have no expectation at the bottom. So for preschool, accuracy is less than 50%. That's where they're expecting it to be. If you're in pre-K, you're in kindergarten. As we go over to first grade, second grade, third grade, it's going to give you more data. So if a student is in first grade and exceeds expectation, their accuracy is 90% or greater, and they have a raw score of 15 or greater. So it's just nice to be able to see kind of the analytics that go into creating those different subgroups for students. I'd also like to talk about instructional grouping. So if you go back to your dashboard under reports, the third one down is going to be instructional planning report. If you click on that, here's where you're going to be able to see groups of students to be able to plan for small group instruction, center time, things like that. It's automatically going to default where you're going to see the subcategories, so phonological awareness, phonics and word recognition, but it's not going to show you the names of students, only how many. So if I'm looking at phonological awareness for level 2 for initial sounds, I have 2 students. Level 3, blending and segmenting, I have 2 students. And I can see that most of my students fall in a level 4 or above for phonemic manipulation. If you click up here where it says expand all, it will show you the names for all those students in each subcategory, or you can pick and choose. Under each subcategory, it will be show students and resources. You can click that if you just wanted to see phonological awareness, you just wanted to see word recognition. So if you were to expand one of these or all of these, it's going to show you student names. So here we can see where the students are at in different levels, and it will give you next steps for each of these. If I were to click on assignments, here is where I can select progress monitoring. So your school should be defaulted if you're at one school. Your grade level, your class should all be set up unless you teach more than one class or more than one grade level. I can select all students by check marking this checkbox where the search box is for students, or I can uncheck that and select individual students if there's only a few. Progress monitoring would be what you're going to do after the benchmark in between the fall and winter and spring assessments. Benchmark would be what they're assigned for those fall testing windows, winter and spring. You can select their language, so if you have students who are ELL students, you can select Spanish. And then you can pick subtypes. I can focus just on oral reading, so they'll get passages to read. I could focus on phonics and word recognition or phonological awareness, or I can select all 3 if I choose, and then hit assign, and it will assign those students. So for the progress monitoring subtypes, we have foundational skills. So they can do phonological awareness and phonics and word recognition, or they can focus on oral reading fluency, or a combination of both if you would prefer. Thank you for joining me for this video today. If you have questions, you can email me at Fuller, at eriercd.org, or give me a call at 814-824-1248. Have a great day.